The Mishnah tells us, based on the text in the Torah, book of Deuteronomy, chapter 25, I'm reading the translation, so that shall it be done to the man who does not build his brother's house. Meaning, we have a view of Rabban Gamliel in the Mishnah. The moment a person have a Levirate marriage, which means after the Avam performs Levirate betrothed with the first Yevamah, the second Yevamah will be forbidden due to the prohibition indicated in that verse. He may build one house in a singular, but B may not build two houses. Therefore, Rabban Gamliel said a bill of divorce, a get, is not effective when given after a bill of divorce was previously given to a Yevamah. So a second Levirate betrothal will not be effective. So we studied already the view of the Ramban, that he explained that it is the true in the cases when the Avam consummate the Levirate marriage with the first Yevamah. So now, then we follow the Mishnah. The sages said, "V'chachamim omrim, yesh get achar get." They said, the majority of the sages say, get, a bill of divorce, is effective when giving after a bill of divorce. V'yesh ma'amar achar ma'amar. And Levirate betrothal is effective after the Levirate betrothal. So now, we have a text in the Mishnah that said, Keitzad, asa ma'amar, the very bottom of 51b. So it's like a new subject that's not connected to the Reisha, the beginning of the Mishnah. So we are on page 52. Hai get, achar gethu. So the question is, it's like puzzling point. You see here a case, since the Mishnah began with this disputation between Rabban Gamliel and the sages, in regards to get, follow get, and ma'amar, follow ma'amar. And then you said, keitzad, but in a way, it's not clear, Rashi said, what exactly they meant to say here. Is like disconnected from the first part, first clause of the Mishnah. Amar Rav Yehuda hachi ke'amar. Get achar get, u'ma'amar achar ma'amar, ke'de'amaran. Which means, as we studied in the previous page, Yavam echad v'yivama echad, which is he, meaning the brother-in-law, did two actions with the Yevamah, keitzad, hataratan, asa ma'amar b'yivimto v'natan la get, tzricha emenu וחליצה. So let's understand the process. Again, this is something we discussed in the past several days. We have several definitions we learn. First is the concept of Yavam and Yevamah, which I think by this point we understand. Reuven and Shimon, two brothers. Reuven married Tamar. Reuven passed away with no children. Shimon is basically the Yavam, the one who does the betrothed marriage. We said that first act of betrothal can be, by the rabbinic's view, it's called ma'amar. Ma'amar is betrothal in a manner of intent. Can be a letter, a contract, money, or anything that shows like letter of intent, that he is interested in continue on and in a sense married her or levirate her. The concept of get, let's think together. Why Shimon wants to give a get to Tamar? The reason for that is trace a situation that Shimon has other brothers. Let's say Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. 4 brothers. Shimon is the oldest one. Reuven passed away. Shimon, for example, want to secure, for all kind of reasons, Tamar to be his wife. So what did he do now? Mama. He does, for example, mama. Or, for example, he give get to Tamar. What happened if he gives get? He put a boundary for all his brothers that they can no longer be able to act in a levirate manner toward Tamar. Right? He excluded them from being the one who redeem her, who have the act of levirate. So here is the question. Originally, you have one Yavam that he gave to two Yevamot. Two Yevamot can be the two wives, the wife and the co-wife of the deceased. Or, if you have two Yevamim, that gives it to one Yevamah. Okay? And now you have three different dinim. One is Yavam Echad and Yevamah Echad. And then you have one Yavam with two Yevamot. And then you have the conclusion with two Yevamim, two Yevamah Echad. So here we said, Asama Amar Biyivimto, which is two action. First he did Ma'amar. So what happened now? Help me. What happened now? He did Ma'amar, so he is basically in a way secure, lehavdil.
She's no longer available to the other brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And
you guys a little bit with business. So let's talk business, right? You go in an auction. It's a real estate auction, right? Mm-hmm. You go downtown Washington and it's an auction goes on, right? They start bidding. You go to a guy and you bring a letter from a bank, letter of intent, with $10,000 cash or right, secure cash check bank, right? And you deposit it. What's going to happen now? The auction is closed. Why? Because you said the rest of the money, I have whatever, 48 hours, 30 days, whatever the agreement is to come up with the rest of the money, right? Mm-hmm. So in that sense, I just show you an example. So the moment he did Ma'amar, Asa Ma'amar, Venatan la get. After the Ma'amar, he did a get. Why the get? Because it's basically, he released all the Zikah contact with her. So now what happened here, it's partially, listen carefully, remember yesterday we talked about credit cards? It's partially out, but not totally. Because he's out in a sense of the betrothed, because he gave a Ma'amar, now he's out with the get. Yet because he's still under the title of Yavam, he needs to add to that the וחליצה.
Make her available to everyone else.
לשוק.
Right.
Right. עשה מאמר ובעל, הרי זו כמצוותה. Which is, he did the מאמר, and then he have the cohabitation. So, that's obvious, right? Because that's the way Ba'ava Mina.
Yeah, that's ייבום, right there.
Yeah,
when they call it, right. So.
Now, why is that? Listen carefully, the beauty of the rabbinic teaching. That's so beautiful. Listen carefully. למה מסייע לרב הונא? דאמר רב הונא, מצוות יבמה מקדש ואחר כך בועל. You go by the rabbinic view, they said, what is the proper manners? If you go by the dry law of the Torah tells you, okay, you cohabited with a woman, it's your wife. That's it. The rabbis came in and said, that's inappropriate, incongruous. First, you have to have some type of intent. And then, meaning kiddushin, some type of betrothal. Why? They call it derech pritzut, meaning it's very immodest manner, right? To go and just have a cohabitation with women. So if you go by the biblical dry law,
you're married,
right? You cohabited, you're married, right? You go by the rabbis, the rabbis said, that's not the way we want people to do this. It's called derech pritzut. That's not proper. First do kiddushin, and then after you do the process of intent, go, Shovik told me, in the Indian culture, they have 3-day ceremonies, gift and whatever, and contract and whatever. They have all kind of things, the havdil. And then after the 3 days, they go and they have cohabitations. So in lehavdil, right? So the idea is, rabbis came in and said, it shouldn't be mekadesh ואחר כך בועל. אימה, אף זה כמצוותה, which means here, unlike Rav Huna, you should do it that way pshita. That's obvious. Since we learn in page 29b, העושה מאמר ביבמתו. If someone went ahead, Shimon went to Tamar, the wife of the deceased. Shimon is the surviving brother, right? And he does ma'amar with his sister-in-law, I meant brother's wife. Parcha hemenu zikat yevamim. So the zikah band that originally had between Tamar and Shimon is no longer in effect. V'chala alav zikat erusin v'nisuin. So in that sense, is no longer under the title of Yevama, right? And it changed her status to call it Arusa, like betrothed. Why? Because as Rashi tells us in 29b, she need to consent to that way. So originally speaking, the zikah between the two was Yavam and Yevama. The moment Shimon came in and he did ma'amar, so now it changed the status. It means she's now his fiancée, right? It's not Yevama, it's his fiancée, and she need to consent to go to the final process of Chuppah and Kiddushin, right? So he said, Eima, so you said that he betrothed her first, Lav mitzvah kavid, maybe it's not. Why? Because he married her like regular wife, right? So it's appear that he doesn't fulfill the mitzvah of ייבום. He just completes a regular manner of marriage. You go to a normal marriage. What is normal marriage? You have this tnaim, you have whatever, votes, you have engagement, and then you have chuppah, kiddushin. So Ritva says maybe it's not proper to do it. We want to distinguish between ייבום, manner of ייבום, and a manner of regular marriage. So here he said kamash melan. So midirabanan, as we studied earlier, ma'amar ba'yevama, right, or ייבום, in the way that the Torah tells us. So it's bi'ah, it's relation. But according to the way Rashi instructed us in Ritva and others, you have to have kesef, money, shtar, some type of contract, but not bi'ah, right? So it's like pkiat zikah. It's like the zikah bond, it's disconnect, because nisuim has to be, the marriage has to be by the chuppah. So the question is she's married by the cohabitation or by the chuppah? If you start with the maslul shel Torah, if you try in the path of the Torah, so you do bi'ah, and the bi'ah, the cohabitation, is the ייבום, and is nisuin gmurin, is a total marriage, and basically, in a way, you continue the zikat achiv. Why? Because the kinyan, the act of the acquisition, I'm sorry to use the word acquisition, but that's clarify the point, right? The moment the acquisition was made by this cohabitation, biblically speaking, it's done, it's over, it's already coupled. So, in the sense, Shimon is just, for our discussion, I'm just using this rough language, but that's the form is Shimon is now Reuven. In a sense, Shimon is basically, how do you say it? Shimon is the continuation of Reuven. So Reuven passed, Shimon have intercourse with Tamar. Guess what? It's just Reuven with a different name. That's biblically in a dry law, because that's one maslul, one avenue. Now here we go by a different direction. We said that if you go by the Mishnah said that you should do lechatchila, you should do ma'amar before the cohabitation. Now let's think together. Let's not talk to a Torah scholar. Let's talk to a general world. What sounds better? So the rabbis come in and said, even it's a total different manner of relationships, since it's a ma'amar first, people, in a very general term, will conceptualize that in a very proper way. Now the next question you ask, so what's the real difference? People think that it's just a regular marriage. No, it's not. Because in Leviticus 18 the Torah said that you should not do that. It's your brother's wife. Now all of a sudden you do it in order to perpetuate the soul. So even it's appear like a regular marriage manner, but it's different. So again, let's put together the whole pieces, make sure that we all understand. Biblically speaking, Reuven, Shimon, two brothers. Reuven married Tamar. Reuven is no longer among the living. Shimon can have intercourse with Tamar. Biblically speaking, is just a different name. He is, in our language, substitute of Reuven, right? He does the kinyan, the acquisition by doing that. Goodbye, it's marriage. The rabbis came in and said, no, that's derech pritzut, that's not modest, that should not be done this way. He should do first ma'amar. First he give her something, a contract, money, show letter of intent, right? And then he married her. Then the rabbis came in and said, so people misconstrue, people think that that's the same as a regular marriage. Then the rabbi said, no, it's not. Because why? Originally speaking, the Torah tells us in Leviticus 18 not to do that. This is your brother's wife. You are prohibited. Now, because of ייבום, you do that. But we ask you to go to the next step and not start with direct cohabitation, but do a process in between. So do not compare this to a regular manner of marriage. Clear? Gufa. Amar Ravuna, mitzvat Yevamim. Ravuna tells us that all the mitzvah of Yevamim, mekadesh ve'achar kach bo'el. As we said, first do the act of betrothal and then have cohabitation with her. Okay? Ve'im ba'al ve'asa ma'amar kana. Guess what this guy did? He first had intercourse with her, and then he did ma'amar with her. Unfortunately, we live in a society, how many people we know that they come to us and they want to get married and they already live together. Did you ever heard that, Gilbert? They live together. Do you know what they do? They live together just, be friends together, or they live together and they have something in between them, right?
But the cohabitation is yesh breira, right? The cohabitation is breira, is retroactive. It's already it's effective. Yes. The cohabitation. So the ma'amar is,
you just jump to the next point.
Okay.
This is what the Gemara said. Im ba'al ve'asa ma'amar pshita da'kanya beviya. You see how smart is David? He just asked this question that Ravuna has. He doesn't need to add that. And that's why it's in the Tosfot, the Dibur Matchil Ba'al, it said that. He doesn't need to tell us that it's already cohabited, right. It's just it. It's acquire her. So if the bi'ah, if the cohabitation, it's effect, so the ma'amar, what ma'amar can increase the act of the kinyan bi'ah. So also, the ma'amar changed the status? So why need to add the idea of ma'amar? The moment they have an intercourse, it's over. אלא אימה אם בעל בלא מאמר קנה. So Ravuna come to teach us, that's the Tosfot said, that even this guy did not do the way the sages instructed us, which is, don't live together first. By the way, you know how many times I can talk to all my colleagues, they tell you the same thing. You have couples that think, oh, we live together for half a year or 1 year, and then we know each other better, and then we know if this is my future, right? How many times they live together for 2-3 years, then they got married, and a couple of months later they divorce. Yeah. Right? Torah said don't do that, right? Anyway, so even this guy violated the law, which is, in a way, it's not full violation, but he doesn't follow the proper decorum, because he should do, as we said, first ma'amar and then cohabitation. But he did first, but that bi'ah, it's already create an acquisition of that Yevamah. That's what the Tosfot tells us. Vehatanya loke, we learn that this guy received lashes for doing that, right?
For violating the rabbinic law. which is because you didn't give ma'amar.
According to rabbinic interpretation of the Torah, it's violation even in some manners of Torah law.
Okay.
Because the rabbis came in and they have the strength, at least the same as the Torah, to come in and said, hey, yes, the Torah said something, but we tell you what the Torah meant. And the Torah doesn't want people to just come out and do this. We want to have certain manners, certain procedure. Right?
Well, I understand that, but that doesn't say then if they cohabited that they're not married, right? I mean,
just you jump to the next stage.
Sorry.
Makat mardut miderabanan. What does that mean, makat mardut miderabanan? So they said the lashes are not because he transgressed by not performing levirate betrothed, but rather they are lashes for rebelliousness giving for transgressing a rabbinic law, namely for acting in immodest manner. Derech pritzut. So biblically speaking, you can do it. But the sages said that's recklessness, kalut rosh. That's not proper. That's the way the Gemarrah in Chulin one. That's the way the rabbis evaluate. Tosfot even said that even it's in Yavam. Yavam, if he start with bi'ah without kiddushin, he deserve a malkot. Why? Because it's not proper. Now there is a Tosfot in Tractate Kiddushin, page 12b. Very interesting Tosfot. He said, wait a second. You talk about a day bi'ah, and that's improper. What do you mean by that? You want to have people who witness that they have a cohabitation, etc. That's immodest. That's derech pritzut. So if you speak again doraita, it's already acquisition. So that's the same as Yavam. The Rav Mangid mandem kadesh beviyah. So Rav, in those days, the rabbis have, the power to do it. To give a lashes, what does that mean? Biblically speaking, a person can be betrothed in one of the three options. Number one, you give her money or something that have a monetary values, whatever it is, diamond, something that have values. Or you give her a shtar kiddushin, which means you give her a contract that you have the details. Or the Mishnah said in the beginning of kiddushin, if you have cohabitation with her. So even biblically speaking, you can betroth a woman by cohabited with her, but Rav gave lashes to those guys who did it, meaning they marry in that manner. But
I mean, he gave lashes to him as punishment, but they were still married, though.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Listen to this. Yeah. This is for our friend Eddie.
Because
listen to this.
Because of cohabitation.
Eddie, are you listening? Okay. Listen what they said next. Mandem kadesh beshuka. What is mandem kadesh beshuka? Gilbert, help me. What does that mean? You see a girl in the mall. He said, hey, come over. Can you marry me? Right? She said, yes. Okay? We go to a local bar. Right? You take two guys. You take a ring and you said, you will become my wife according to the law of Moses in Israel. Is she your wife?
With Adam?
Yeah.
Right?
I'm going to say yes.
Yes.
But Rav in his city give this guy lashes, 39 lashes.
But they're still married though.
Yes.
It doesn't
He says
change
that's
that.
immodest. You shouldn't
I
do
get that. I mean, it makes sense. It's not the way it should be.
Talk to Rabbi Pinto. Next. Umandim kadesh belo shiduche. Which means, again, it's almost the same. This is basically Tosfot in Tractate Yevamot 12. He says, you go to whatever event, Thanksgiving party, whatever it is, right? I hope no one goes, but let's say, right? And you meet someone, and by the end of the evening, you married. So you get the lashes for that, right? because it's a not normal manner of shidduchim.
Get lashes and a wife.
Right.
You get
Next,
both.
you did. Uman dem vatel gita. Another guy that got lashes is a fellow that he gave a get, right? And he gave it to an emissary, to shaliach, to give it to her. And then he backed out. And he said to this shaliach, "Hello, Eddie, come back.
Don't deliver it.
I changed it. I changed my mind." Right? So what's the problem? The problem is that this fellow, this shaliach, he may don't listen to you because you already gave him. So he will give it to her, and she's going, and she feels she divorced, and she wants to marry someone else. Right? So this guy, he received lashes. Right? Uman de masar moda'a agita, which means there are some cases that the bedin can force men to give a get. There are cases. There are abusive husbands, all kind of cases that the bedin can force someone to give get. All right?
That was where also Rav Ovadia Yosef was heavily involved, right? Yeah, so he had ruled very,
I can't tell you how much I miss Rav Ovadia Yosef. Because in those days, I'm back 30 years ago, I used to go to his shiurim, and he wrote me a few letters. He was one of the most lenient rabbanim that fully comprehend the concept of life between husband and wife. Not too many follow. Like, he was so good with those deserted wives, those broken-hearted wives. Day and night he worked for them. Anyway, so they said in Gittin, page 88, so if he has the witnesses that he about to give get to his wife, and he said to everybody, "I don't want to divorce her. This wicked bet din forced me to divorce her." Right? The man can be very abusive or who knows what. The bet din said that you must give her a get, and he tells everybody that I'm giving it, but I don't wish to give it, and I don't want to give it, but they forcing me to give it, etc., etc. So in a Rav city, he received lashes for that. Right? Why? So Tosfot explained to us, because then people, in a way, belittle the get, and belittle the bet din, and belittle the concept. And they may think that this get is not in effect. Even it is. Next, uman de pakir shlicha de rabbanan. Sometimes the bet din sent shlichim, the emissary, to go to a person and do something, right? The husband, etc. So there are some men, some people that become very rude to them. It's like Gilbert. Here is a case. You own a building, you have a management company that works for you, right? And they are guys that owe the money. So they go to collect the rent, and the guy is about to beat them up. Right? No reason. So in that sense, if you have these shlichim of bet din, these people that bet din sent, and this person is very rude to them, so if they report back to Rav, who was in charge, he gave that man lashes. Right? So Tosfot add to that another nice point. Tosfot said, that's not only for shaliach bet din. Tosfot said, anybody who's rude to a Torah scholar, he received lashes at that time.
Including not paying for a get.
Anyway. Uman de shahe shamta de rabbanan alei tlatin yomin. Some would delay the nidui 30 days, velo ate lebedina vetava leshmate. So sometimes people are rude to the bet din, and he don't come, they send him invitation, etc. So bet din sometimes does that because people behave so badly. That's the famous Rambam. And if someone passed 30 days of nidui, of being in a state of total ban, excommunication, and he's not making the teshuva, so Rav gave him a lashes. Ve'al chatana de'da'er beveit chamoi. And also the son-in-law that live in a house with the mother-in-law. Why? This is the sages said in Psachim 113. Usually the mother-in-law like very much the nice son-in-law, And the theory is that the maid goes and have what, Eddie?
Balagan.
Balagan. All right, whatever you call it. If it's only balagan is one thing. If it's other story, the Tosfot said that nowadays they don't have that concern. But in those days, the mother-in-law likes so much. So I have
nowadays mother-in-laws don't like him anymore.
I must tell you, one of my best friends used to say when it's a freezing cold, right, that it's his mother-in-law. So usually it's not like that, right? You know, she smiled, but she not warm.
It's like the sun in the winter.
Yes, but
who would say that?
Anyway, yes, the diet in the Khalif law, only if he lives there. But if he just visit his mother-in-law, so it's not an issue. והוא דחליף הבא ודבי חמוי, ונק דרב ששת, and he gave that guy, ההוא מידם הווה דיים וחמתי. It was talk in the city that they have something between them, between him and his mother-in-law, right? So Rav Sheshet, even he saw him passing that house and getting to the house, he called him and he gave him lashes. Anyway, it's a different time, right? נהר דאמרי, בחולו לא מנגין דרב, אלא למקדש בביאה ובלא שידוכי. All of that, it's not correct to say that he gave lashes, only if someone did it just by cohabitation and not in the proper manner of betrothal. וכדאמרה אפילו בשילוחנם משום פריצותא, the same way as act of lack of modesty. תנו רבנן. כיצד מאמר? Now we're going to a process of מאמר. Remember, I promised you that we're going to elaborate on the concept of מאמר. נתן לה כסף או שווה קצף. He gives her money or something that have a monetary value. ובשטר כיצד? בשטר כיצד? What does that mean? כדאמרן, as we study in קידושין page 9, כתב לה על הנייר או על החרס, אף על פי שאין בו שווה פרוטה, הרי את מקודשת לי. So imagine, even you give her a contract, so the contract himself, which is the parchment, the paper, whatever it is, you write, you betrothed to me, so the paper itself doesn't have a value. It's not like you give her a piece of jewelry or you give her something that's worth money. It's just a piece of paper. So Tosfot said, even just by writing on a piece of paper that you betrothed to me, so he said, Tosfot said at the end, את ספר המקנס שק לדך דליבי שווה פרוטה. You may thinking that it needs something, that contract itself should worth money. She was something, write it on a piece of diamond, right? But just by paper. So that's the same Kiddushei Ma'amar. So it means this in Ma'amar, it can be act of betrothed even in that. Amar Rabbi Hachika Amar, שטר כתובת ימים כיצד, which again it's the first husband, כתב לה, אני פלוני בר פלוני קביל, את יד פלוני יבימתי עליי, לזון ולפרנסה קראו לבד, שתהיה כתובתך לכסה בעלה הראשון. So even this Yavam, he needs to take care of her financially, the same manner as the husband to his wife by the contract of the ketubah. But if he passed away or he divorced her, she collects the money from the first husband. That's what we study in 39. The woman is from heaven. Anyway, if there's no money to take from the first husband, deceased, takuni lei rabanan misheni. So here the rabbis came in and put a decree that the second one she should acquire from the second husband. Why? The same story of the ketubah. Kadesh lo yeh kala beinav lotzia. Meaning that the foundation of ketubah, we're going to study it in page 89. It's the idea that when a person married someone, he should not be deemed in his eyes that he will easily divorce her. If he will suffer no financial penalty, he is likely to divorce over a smallest argument. We just fight over something, goodbye. We don't want to do that. So therefore the Rambam explained to us in Hilchot Ishut chapter 10 that he should have financial obligation, so he will think twice before he divorcing her. So he give more respect and he's thinking twice. If it's a little argument or whatever it is, that should not be the reason to right away, boom, say goodbye to a marriage.
Are they then saying that the ketubah is always required in the case of ייבום, or they because the way I'm reading it, I understand it, is if that she had a ketubah from the first husband, and there's property involved and so forth, and there's not a...
So the key point is go to the first.
Right. So then if he then, but then there's still no...
the rabbis came in and said if the first one left nothing...
Right. But in the case if they left something, then the brother acquires his brother's, essentially his brother's estate, and then if he later divorces her, he gives the share that was based on the ketubah from his brother to her.
And if there's nothing left...
But so where's the incentive in that case for him not to divorce her? You see what I'm saying? I mean, it just seems like, it's like, well, it's not mine anyway.
The rabbinics view is, even in that case, you should write a ketubah and commit yourself to financial...
So they're saying you should do it even if there was a ketubah
that
financial...
that you should think twice. That you should know that you're going to lose money for doing that.
So, so the rabbis would... I guess it's not rabbinic law, but they would push you to do a ketubah.
It's not that we want people to live forever if they really don't like each other, but the idea is we want a person
make
to
it a little difficult. Yeah,
it's not a little difficult. We want the person to think, to calm down, to think and to think and to think and to feel.
Right.
How many times you hear people saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I broke up with her."
Right.
Right?
No, I understand that. I understand that there's...
Let's feel in reality, right? So, we are friends, and I broke up with him. And it's reality of life.
I understand that.
We want people, if it's married, to think.
Yep.
Alright? באמיני, אביי מרבא. נתן לה גט, ואמר הרי את מגורשת ממני, ואי את מותרת לכל אדם. This guy has a, blood tent. He says, this Yavam, he gave her a get, and he said, you are divorced from me and you cannot marry anybody else. Mahu. So, in a way, if you're a regular person who give this get to the wife, it's not in effect. Because it's an issue here, page 1882. But here, is if get Yevamah the Rabbananu. The whole idea of getting Yevamah is not biblical. The Torah does not speak about get. Get the mehani be'eshetish, mehani be'Yevamah. Get the lo mehani be'eshetish, lo mehani be'Yevamah, or din ma'at elachlu ve'begita. The reason that the get, in effect, in Yevamah, so maybe you come and switch in a regular get, like regular manner of Isha Regila. So here you have the idea that the get yifsolota, because you no longer can have ייבום. So, for people outside, the whole idea of get is a get kritut, but maybe inside is different. So אמר לחשים דין מעט לאכלו ובגיטה, people who mix up between this get and other regular manner get. מתקילה רבא בר חנן אלא מעתה יאיב לה ניירה בעלמא. You give it just a piece of paper, nothing there, right? הכנה מדפסלה, so make her that she's disqualified for ייבום. אמר לי, הטעם לא פסיל בכהונה, הרקע פסיל בכהונה. The whole point is, the moment you do that, you basically exclude her from marry a Kohen. נתניה, ואישה גרושה מאישה לא ייקחו. A Kohen cannot marry a divorcee. אפילו לא התגרשה אלא מאישה, לא ייקחו. Which means, even it's only divorce from a husband, but not, so the word מאישה looks superfluous. So it means, even she's not allowed to marry anyone else, she's prohibited to Kohen. והיינו ריח הגט שפוסל בכהונה. The whole idea is that the ריח הגט, it means that the trace of a get which disqualified women from marrying into the priesthood, since the bill of divorce is valid to a certain extent, it's also disqualifies a Yevamah. The idea is, Tosfot explained in Kittin, page 82, that because of that, she is no longer valid for Kohen. אמר רבי בר חמא, הרי אמרו, אחד אמר ללבלר, a fellow said to a scribe, who write Gittin, כתוב גט לארוסתי, לכשנסנה אגרשנה. הרי זה גט מפני שידו לגרשה. Which means, he engaged with someone, and now it's a difference between the Vilna Gaon and the Rambam in that sense. ריח הגט, biblically speaking, So it disqualified her by biblical, but the Rambam said it's only rabbinic. So here, you tell the scribe, look, write a get to my betrothed now, and when I marry her, I will divorce her with that get. If he indeed gave her a divorce get, after the marriage, it is a valid get. Why? Because it is already in his power to divorce her while she is betrothed to him. And therefore the get written during their betrothed is valid. That's the way Rashi said. Ul isha be'alma. But if he did it to a regular husband-wife, which means he said to the scribe, write get to that woman, and when I married her, I divorced her, ein get. Mipnei she'en bi'ado legarsha. He cannot divorce her now because when it was written, he doesn't have the power, they're not married. This is a little complicated because that's in some type of zikah, some type of relation. So he said, because they have zikat ייבום, so it's considering is like same as they engaged. So because she is now, since she have zikat ייבום, she is prohibited to anybody outside of him, and in order for her to be married to anybody else, she needs a וחליצה from him. So therefore, Odilma, kevan delo abad b'mamar, lo, since he didn't do a mamar, so the get is not valid. So Rashba, so it said teiko. So you have to know the general rule that Rabbi Avraham Minahar explained, that when you write the get, you have to have that entity, husband, soon to be, wife, groom, bride. So, for example, if you tell the scribe to write several gittim, so it looks like weird. Why? Because even a person in that name wants to marry her, etc. It's mix up. But if she's betrothed, it's appear that it's good. Now you have a disputation between Rashi and Tosfot. Why? Because according to Rashi, you cannot use an old get, which means you have yichud after you write the get, and I know one fellow, religious Jew, that he met a woman and he said to her, look, I wanted children. If you are ready to marry for the purpose of have a child, but I'm telling you right now, the moment you have a baby, I'm going to divorce you.
Whoa.
And the guy did it. I know the guy. He married a woman, they have a baby boy, and the moment she gets pregnant, he said, I'm planning to divorce you, as we agreed. And the moment the baby was born and they have the brit, thereafter the brit, the divorce, and that was the original agreement between them. Anyway.
Mishuga. He wanted to fulfill just the mitzvah.
So that's according to Rashi. Wait, according to Tosfot, you're not connected to old get, because you can write a date of the marriage, and the question is, what do you have in Beda'atu Hayom? What do you have in now? For example, if today it's the beginning of the month of Kislev, right? So you can write that you're going to get married on 10th of Kislev, and you're planning to divorce on the 30th of Kislev, right? But if you write the other way around, which means you're planning to marry at the 30th of Kislev, right, or 28th of Kislev, and you want to divorce before you marry, that's not an effect. So the whole idea here, that's the disputation between Rashi and Tosfot. Anyway, by Rav Hanania, katav get lezikato v'lo lemamaro. So it means that she's not yet his wife. They have the zikah, and therefore he writes a get. So, as we said, it's just a zikah between them, but they're not married yet. So the whole idea of לא יבנה, למאמרו ולא לזיקתו מהו, מאמר ילווה זיקה קרמי ואבלי, כמגרש חצי אישה ומגרש חצי אישה לא עשה ולא כלום, מודיל מה לחודי קאי ולחודי קאי. So there is a 2 point of the get. Number one is Yevamah, so it's not a wife. So what's the purpose of giving her a get? So you said they give a get because of zikah, because I want to forbid all the other brothers from marry her. So you have to have the וחליצה, right? Or the second option, you do ma'amar in this Yevamah, but it's only rabbinic, because by the biblical law, you have to go the idea of cohabitation. So he gave get in order to exempt from the ma'amar. So therefore, you don't have a get lechatzain, which is in a half a way. So if you do each of them independently, so you do the ma'amar, so it's a regular wife. But if you go by the rabbinic idea, that's at the beginning of the parak, he said, the moment you give a get, so that's avoiding all the other brothers from marrying her. So they said, "But if she Rava natan get lemamaro utrat tzarato." So the second one, which means Shimon, he did ma'amar with the wife of Reuven, he gave her get. So he said that this get is only for the ma'amar and not for the zikah. So basically, if Shimon passed, Levi can do a Levite marriage with the wife of Shimon, because she is considering tzarata. Otherwise, it's considered the wife of two deceased. Because according to his view, there's no connection between ma'amar and zikah. So according to Rashi, he said because you have gzera mishum balat get Gemarrah, but the tzarata, the co-wife will allow. So therefore, ma'amar not effect on the zikah. Chalatz ve'asa b'ma'amar. So chalatz, we said lo bana shuv lo yivne. So he is in violation of love, negative commandment. So why she doesn't need a get? Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, Zod divrei Rabbi Akiva. Amar en kilushin tofsim b'chayil lavin. So the Rabbi Akiva said you don't need get for the ma'amar. אבל חכמים יש חליצה אחר ייבום. The moment he did חליצה, he did a ma'amar, so you need to give get because it's a regular kilushin, and that's part of חייבי lavin. So in order to have a heter, you need to give a get. מי מצית מוקמת לי כרבי עקיבא, ועתני ברישה נתן גט ועשה מאמר צריכה גט וחליצה, because שניהם is כאחד, is like one. So in order to release the קידושי מאמר, חליצה in order to release the zikah, so by giving get, they cannot marry you. You have the מאמר that it's an effect, so you have to have a get in order to annul, to להפקיע מאמר, in order to fulfill מצוות ייבום, need to give a חליצה. ואי רבי עקיבא, כיוון דאב לגט ממאנה בה, מאמר, וכאן רבי עקיבא אומר, מניין נותן גט לבהמתו שנאסרה עליו עולמית, שנאמר לו יוכל בעלה הראשון אחר שלך, אחר שילוח. I explain more in my book, and there's a Rashi here, we're running out of time. אמר רב אשי, גט יבמים מדרבנן הוקרא אסמכתא בעלמא. That's the most important part, because according to Rashi, you have a mitzvah of return the grushato. But if she marries someone else, she is prohibited. So here you have situation that you have shiluach, you release her. In other words, you give her a get, and you cannot bring her back. When is that? If you give get to Yevamah, so you have for the Rabbanan, יקרא אסמכתא בעלמא. It's basically a rabbinic view. הכי אמר רבי, אין הדברים הללו אמורים אלא לדברי רבי עקיבא, שהיה עושה חלוצה כערווה. In general, there is a concept of arayot, which we study many times, Leviticus 18, which said that all those who considering an abomination from the extreme, which is father, daughter, etc., to the little further with the extended immediate family, Rabbi Akiva hold that even you have a situation of chalutza meaning she is now free, and Rabbi Akiva said, since she is free, but she is prohibited to the ex, meaning the fellow that had the option or was forced, or whatever the reason is, that he released her in chalitza manner, she's now in a status of arayot, of erva, and therefore he hold that follow chalitza, any type of kiddushin has no effect. So let's try a situation, what Rabbi Akiva said. Reuven married Tamar. Shimon came in, even in a simple case, and he did not want to do ייבום for all kind of reasons. He did וחליצה to Tamar. So she is now, according to Rabbi Akiva, is not just free. If he, after releasing her, cohabitated with her, the result of that, it's not act of tfisat kiddushin, meaning it's no any manner of betrothal. And therefore, according to Rabbi Akiva, the vlad is total mamzer. אבל החכמים אומרים, יש אחר חליצה כלום. So the sages hold, majority of the sages said, that even you are in violation, meaning even you are in a negative commandment of chayavei lavin, still, if you go back after the act of chalitza, this fellow, this yavam, and went back and betrothed her, which means, for example, have intercourse with her, she needs get, which means according to majority of the sages, he still has chalot kiddushin, which means that even if, for example, the yavam did a manner of cohabitation with her, with the yavama, and then he went ahead and betrothed, did the kiddushin with her or the tzarata of the co-wife, or his brother did that with his with the other wife. So according to the way we understand the sages, that's the view of the Rif and others. The kiddushin is chalot, and therefore she needs to have a get. Again, that's the majority of the sages, unlike Rabbi Akiva. Va'ani omer, so Rabbi continued and said, when is that tfisat kiddushin? Matai b'zman shekidsha leshum ishut, which means like a regular betrothed manner, which means not in the manner of ma'amar that we explained earlier with the Yevamim. That's the Rashi. Tosfot said that it all applies if it's a zikat ייבום, if you have some type of zikah band, which means that he said that he betrothed her in the regular manner and not in the manner of ma'amar. So, since they hold the majority of the sages that kiddushin chalin b'chayavei lavin, so therefore they have chalot kiddushin. But it's in a manner of ishut. Aval kidsha lishum yevamot, which means that he was mistaken thinking that even the וחליצה allow her to go out and marry outside, but he thought that she is still part of his potential because of the previous relation with the family. That's the way the Ritva and Ramban explain. So he intend to betroth her in a regular manner of Yavam and Yevamah. So as long as he said that he's betrothed and he didn't do Ma'amar, by retroactively Tosfot said that he intend to acquire her as a regular manner of Yevamah because he thought that he still has zkikut, meaning he still feel that there is a samban. Ein achar וחליצה klum. Since you cannot do ייבום after וחליצה, so it means that his kiddushei ta'ut, Rashi said, it's a mistaken of matter of kiddushim, and therefore is no need for get. Tanya idach, החולץ ליבמתו וחזר וקידשה. He did the וחליצה and now we betrothed again. Rabbi אומר אם קידשה לשום אישות צריכה ממנו get, because if you intend to make it the purpose of marriage, לשום יבמות אין צריכה ממנו get, because it's already really said with וחליצה. והחכמים אומרים בין שקידשה לשום אישות בין קידשה לשום יבמות צריכה ממנו get, because again, even he did already וחליצה, but since he have a kiddushin matter, even it's in a violation of חייבי lavin, but still, since it was in intent, regardless if it's ishut or yivmut, she needs a get. Omar Rav Yosef, my tama de Rabbi. Why, if you intend for yivmut, it's a need to have the kiddushin is no chalot, is not in effect. As the sage said, ke'odel benichse ager. If you have a convert that passed, because savur sheloen, so he saw that he is not hefker, so he's not intent to acquire them, so it's not active, because in general, a convert that passed and is no inheritor, so anyone who comes first can have it. So therefore, if someone put a fence, for example, around that property, or did some manner of improvement of that property, so it's called maaseh chazakah, so he's zacha beze. So if he is neighbor of someone, as the neighbor start walking in his property, and he thought that because he thought that it's his, the neighbor, that's not considering maaseh kinyan. So Rav Yosef explained that according to Ravi Yavam, that he did וחליצה to his Yevamah and then betrothed her in a regular manner of ייבום, it's very similar in a juxtaposition to our original case. So therefore, after the וחליצה is no longer a zikah band between the two. Rashi elaborates on that. I wish to have more time. Anyway, Amar le'abaye midame. How do you compare the two? In other words, how do you compare the case of convert to the case of וחליצה and ייבום? Hatam, the one who's walking the nichse ager, lo kamechana lemichne. Why? Because again, you have two people. One is the convert, one is a fellow that born Jewish. And the fellow that born Jewish, he was walking in his field and he thought that it's his, while the truth is the other. And the other one passed away. But that doesn't mean that he have the acquisition, because again, in his mindset, he is walking in his own field. So, he intend to acquire that Yevamah. Halok damya אלא להודר בנכסי גר זה, וכסבור של גר אחר הוא דקני. Because as long as he's told that it's a ger, so it's a choir. Why? Because again, it's a, because you have the Maaseh Kinyan, he intend to do it, even it's not the person he thought about it. The Ritva said that the whole idea of Maaseh Kinyan is crucial here. So as long as Maaseh Kinyan with the ger, it makes no difference if it's the one intent or not. אלא אמר רבי יחם מעסקינן כגון דאמר לה, he said at the time of the betrothal, the יבם סדר יבמה, התקדשי לי במאמר יבמים. So התקדשי במאמר יבמים, so Ritva explained that he defined that act as a מאמר, and he had in mindset that this act of acquisition will take effect as a מאמר and not as an act of betrothal. רבי סבר מאמר ילווה זיקה כרמי. So it means that's in addition to the original zika bond that they have between the two. ועתה חליצה אף קעתה לזיקה. The חליצה released the zika. רבנן סברי על איחוד הקאי ועל איחוד הקאי. Each of them independently, is no difference between the two. Is no difference if he did a מאמר when the zika is still in effect or not. מעיקרה, originally, before the חליצה, אילו אמר לה, התקדשי לי במאמר יבמים, מי לא מענה, שלא מענה. So now it's not an effect. The חזון איש in Kuf Kafchet elaborates on that. Anyway, Rava Amar, Ida Amar La, B'Mamar Yavin Kula Amar Pligi Demania. So obviously, everyone agreed that this Ma'amar, it's basically have independent status, and that's the way Rava explains. V'Hacha, the Maya Skinan. Here we talk about Kiron Amar La Itkachili Bezikat Yevamim. So it means the money that you receive for the purpose of betrothal, it's for the zikat Yevamim. So it's therefore, if he said it before he did the וחליצה, so you have a manner of betrothal. Now, so he did it after the וחליצה, this is the disputation. Rabbi Sabar, 53, yesh zika. So as we said, the connection between the Avam and the Yevama, it's some type of act of betrothal, and therefore you have the Zika bond, because the Meiri said, because he brings some Tokef Kiddushin, he brings some Gushpanka, some manner of final stage of acquisition, in addition to the original Zika bond that they have between the two. Ve'atay וחליצה ואף קטה לזיקה. So the acting of וחליצה is release the Zika bond. So Rashi explained, so therefore the Maaseh Kiddushin is meaningless. Rabbanan Savre en Zika. So therefore it's no difference if he does it while they have the Zika bond or after. מעיקר לא אמר להתקדשי בזיקת יבמים לא מענה, השתנה לא מענה, השתנה מענה. So this Kiddushin have an effect. So כולי עלמא לא פליגי דמהנה. Rav Shravya Amar, another explanation, בחליצה כשרה, in a regular, proper way, Ida Amar la itkachi bezikat yevamim kula amar lo plige de lo meane. Why? Because the act of חליצה is totally annulled, abrogated, the zika ban. Ve'acha bechalitzah psula kamiflege. So as we said earlier, that's he gave her originally get, and therefore he put a boundary against the ייבום, and then he did the חליצה. So that's חליצה psula. You do it in a case that this manner of ייבום is prohibited, and that's what we said it originally, the very early stage in this parak. Mar savar, Rabbi savar, חליצה psula poteret. Umar savar, the majority of the sage said, חליצה psula אינה poteret. So since they have this zika, so you have תפיסת קידושין. רב אשי אמר, another interpretation, לכולי עלמא חליצה פסולה אינה פותרת, ואחא בישנה וחליצה כמפליגי. So here we talk about precondition, that you have a stipulation to circumscribe the capability of that חליצה. Mar savar, which is the majority of the sages hold, יש תנאי בחליצה, you can make a pre-set up agreement in advance, that he made that חליצה on that stipulation, and therefore it's taking an effect, and if he doesn't fulfill that condition, the pkiat zika is not taking place, and since the zika is there, if the Avam doesn't give her money and betroth upon her in the zikat yevamim, that kiddushin have an effect. That's the way Rashi said. Umar savar, and Rabbi hold, and so tnai is not in effect b'chalitzah, so he cannot limit the chalitza. That's the Gemarrah in Ketubot, page 74. A person can put a condition only in something that he can make by a shaliach. So that's we learn from the story of Gad and Reuven when they negotiated with Moses before they entered the land. We derive for that they have the inheritance in that sense. So since you have the emissary on your behalf, it's considering as an honor for that action and the consequences, and therefore you can put the condition in advance, precondition. Even that condition was not fulfilled. That's the way Tosfot explained to us. Now, the truth is there is a Tosfot in Gittin 75, and it's much more. I once wrote an article, try to compare this to other manner of Tnai. For example, we all know that Shabbat, when it's the winter time, and the Shabbat starts very earlier. So there's some housewives, they have issues of lighting candles sometimes. So sometimes they make it Tnai in advance. In that framework of before it's the Shkias time, they can do other things, even the lighting candles. So it said some hold that if you make preconditioned Tnai, that's what Rabbi Shalom Zalman explained in Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata and other books, that if you make these preconditions time, it can take an effect. So now we try to juxtapose here the same as Tnai of Nerad and Reuven, the same way as the Tosfot said in Gittin 75, that you make a condition in advance, and that condition have an effect. That's the way the Rabbi holds. Another interpretation, Ravina Amar, which means you can have option to circumscribe this Chalitzah, to limit Chalitzah by having a condition in advance. That's the way Rashi said. Tosfot Dibor Matchil Ravina hold that it's Chalitzah Psula. Anyway, V'acha Betnai Kaful Kamiflegei, which means that you have to have double condition. Mar Savar Rabbi Savar Ba'inan Tnai Kaful, which means that he said, if you give me X amount of money, for example, this Chalitzah have an effect, but it doesn't give the second part of that, which is if you don't, the Chalitzah will not take effect. So it means that this condition will have an effect to limit the action. So you need to put both sides of that action. So it's like Moshe Rabbeinu said to Negar of Reuven, he said at the end of Bamidbar, if you do this, if you inherited land, if you help your brother, then you inherited the other part. So you have the both, it's called Tnai Kaful. So that's the view of Rabbi. So if the Yavam did not have a double stipulation in advance, it's not taking an effect, and therefore the Chalitzah is basically abrogated. The Zikaban, even that condition will not take an effect, and therefore if he betrothed her, the Yavam, in a Zikat Yevamim, that Kiddushin has no effect, because you don't have a Zikaban, Umar Savar, and the majority of the sages said, Lo Ba'inan Tnai Kaful, you don't need it. So because, therefore the Chalitzah did not abrogate it. So you have here basically 6 different avenues. You have Rav Yosef, that you say that you have to have the Shev Yevamot, which means that the Yavam hold that this Zikaban is not yet abrogated, and it was he intend to betroth her as Yevamah. So therefore Rabbi hold that this matter of betroth is not in effect, because it's Maaseh Bli Kinyan, which means you have a deed without the intent of acquisition, and the explanation of Rav Yosef rejected, because you have to say that it was an intent. Then you have Abaye, that he having the clear mindset express in advance, so therefore you can betroth this Chalutza by Ma'amar Yavamim. And then you have Rava, Rav Shervia, Rav Ashi, and Ravina. So the Rif and the Rosh and Milchamot Hashem and the Chazonish Avnei Ezer Kuf Kafchet elaborate on these 6 different avenues. We're just running out of time, so just let's finish the sugya. Chalatz b'nata asaba mamar mtanket u'ba'al v'nit nam le'nachar bia klum. So as we said earlier, so it's the moment it's bia, it's already the writers. והרב דברי תרבה ותני אין אחר ביה כלום. את הנדידן, התרת יבמה לשוק, עדיף עלי. So even they speak about bia, he talk about chalitza, because that's, he preferred to speak about it first. That's the way Rashi said. אחד יבמה ואחת שתי יבמות, אחד יבמה אחת ואחד שתי יבמות. So they said, מדין דלא כבן עזאי. דתניא בן עזאי אומר, יש מאמר אחר מאמר בשני יבמים ויבמה אחד, ואין מאמר אחר מאמר בשתי יבמות ויבם אחד. According to Ben Azai, that's the way Rashi explained to us. If you have 2 yevamot before 1 yavam, and he did ma'amar in one of them, so when he act in ma'amar manners, and the second one is no effect. So Ben Azai disputed the view of the Mishnah, that they say that you have ma'amar after the ma'amar, and that's followed the majority of the sages, the way that we said it early in the Mishnah on page 50, and that's applied to both Yevamot. There is also Rashi, another girsa, another view that can go other way around.